On the second day, they started hunting in the mountains. It was a tough journey. Despite their efforts, they were happy, but not for long. They faced a harsh reality. Splitting up, they spent 10 hours searching the peaks without seeing a North American reindeer or any tracks. With little fuel left in their motorcycle, they made the tough decision to return home. Although they wanted to bring a reindeer back for their family, they had to accept reality. Meanwhile, Stan was operating an 11-ton bulldozer on the Yukon River, doing something risky. The river's ice had to be thick enough to support this weight. Stan, a 64-year-old trapping master, was building an ice road on the Yukon to transport logs to Tanana. The town planned to give these logs to the residents for free. A great boon as firewood is expensive, despite the area's rich natural resources. To transport the logs, the road builder, Patek, enlisted Stan's help to construct the ice road. This was necessary, as Stan could operate most of the town's machinery. This year's higher temperatures made it impossible to use heavy machinery on the river until now. Finally, with colder temperatures, they could proceed. It was a dangerous task. The ice might not support the heavy machinery, risking lives. However, Stan chose to take the risk for the town's benefit. Not everyone was happy about the free logs. Some, like the cunning lumber merchant James, saw their livelihood threatened. Years ago, James had tried to take over the Moore family's dog breeding business during a crisis. Now, with the Moores transporting wood, his logging job might end. The town had limited heavy equipment. To drive the bulldozer on the river, Stan first had to check the ice thickness. He planned his route along the Tanana riverbanks to a sandbank, then across the Yukon. Every 27 meters, he drilled a hole to check the ice before driving the heavy bulldozer across. This bold move was crucial for the town's supply of wood. To ensure the townspeople have access to free wood, Stan was fully committed. The riverbanks are shallow areas where the ice is relatively thicker and safer. The real danger lies in crossing the 800-meter-wide river. Due to the river's currents, the ice above tends to curve and is filled with cracks. If suddenly burdened with heavy weight, the consequences are predictable. Not long ago, a bulldozer fell into the Yukon River downstream. To ensure his safety, Stan enlisted Thomas's help. He tied a rope to his wrist, handing the other end to Thomas. In case the bulldozer sank, the rope could potentially save him. Once everything was ready, the bulldozer began crossing the Yukon River. Despite the dangers, Stan completed the task without hesitation. The next day, Stan went to see the amount of wood to be transported. The scene was impressive. He couldn't even estimate how many years the wood would last. A large amount of wood was delivered to the water plant. Just today's transport was enough for the plant's use for over 2 years. Now, the most distressed would be lumber merchants like James. Although very angry and desperate, he was helpless. He needed to find other ways to make money to support his family. That's just life. During the bustling transportation of wood in the town of Tanana, hunter Charlie was planning to take back his original trapping line from Agwo. These were footprints left behind, one of the hunter's favorite prey because of their valuable fur, which could sell for hundreds of dollars. But Charlie was not only unhappy, he was very angry, especially seeing many footprints of Martin and Wolverine elsewhere. As viewers of the previous video know, this trapping line was originally used by Charlie. Over 10 years ago, because Agwo was not around, his father entrusted this ancestral trapping line to Charlie. But a few months ago, after wandering outside for 12 years, Agwo returned to Tanana and reclaimed the line. They had agreed that the line must continue to be used. If Agwo just wanted it back without using it, Charlie would later take back ownership. After all, he had promised Agwo's father to take care of this line and continue its legacy. After the transfer, Charlie even lent the original traps and snares to Agwo as a sort of repayment to his family. Afterwards, he went to pioneer a new line far away. It's a long journey. It may be several years before the new line can produce stable income. In fact, Charlie has not completely let go of his original territory. Whenever he has time, he keeps an eye on Agwo's movements. Today, after finishing the work at the water plant, He went to the Moore family's dog farm to ask Agwo about the status of the line, since Agwo's return from outside. He devoted himself fully to training sled dogs to win first place in the big race. Currently, he has no time to manage the trapping lines. He might have time for trapping after the race ends. Hearing this, Charlie could only leave disappointed. Since Agwo couldn't maintain the line, Charlie decided to retrieve the traps and set them up in a new area. When he arrived, he saw no signs of maintenance and became somewhat angry. A trapping line needs proper upkeep, or other hunters might take it over. Charlie had protected this area for 10 years. Losing it would be embarrassing. What angered him more were the animal tracks around the traps. If managed well, substantial money could be made. Almost every trap was neglected. His new line hadn't yielded any profits yet. While this area was wasting resources, Charlie remembered his words when he handed over the line to Agwo. If Agwo didn't keep his promise, Charlie would take everything back. Now, I ask everyone a question. What do you think is the best way to handle this? To survive the harsh winter, Charlie plans to take his son to catch beavers. It's a large beaver lodge housing a family. Each trapping season, Tanana's hunters earn money from them. Although beaver fur prices are declining, they still sell for $60 each. Besides the valuable fur, their meat is nutritious and good for winter food. The situation with the trapping line greatly upset Charlie. Agwo's family controlled it. When their last elder was dying and had no direct heirs, he entrusted it to Charlie. Now that Agwo has claimed it back, he was supposed to maintain it, but broke his promise due to dog breeding. Today, Charlie returned to the dog farm to discuss this with Agwo. However, the owner, Patek, informed Charlie that Agwo had left Tanana for a competition and wouldn't return for a week. This ignited Charlie's anger. Since Agwo didn't keep his promise, Charlie decided to reclaim ownership of the line. He took his son, Bob, and entered the original trapping line without permission. Today, their main target was beavers. The father and son traveled 32 kilometers to Fish Lake, where beavers are plentiful. Charlie usually has a good harvest here, helping him through tough winters. But now, returning to this land, he felt like an intruder. The large beaver lodge had served the Charlie family selflessly for many years. Even his hat was made of beaver fur. To catch them, he first had to make a hole in the ice. The size is about 1.5 meters square. This birch branch is the bait for catching them. Beavers usually like to eat this the most. A lasso is placed around the bait. Then, a tarp covers the hole. The trap is now complete. There are many beaver lodges around here. The father and son plan to set more traps. In a blink of an eye, 10 hours have passed. Almost every beaver lodge on Fish Lake has been equipped with a trap. As the sun sets, the father and son finish their day's work. However, before going home, they want to check the first trap they set today. If they catch a beaver, they will have a dish to accompany their evening drink. Indeed, this place is a treasure. The trap set in the morning yielded results by the afternoon. Using the snow to dry the water off the fur, they head home with today's catch. Overnight passes. When the sun rises again, Charlie and his son return to Fish Lake. Today, they aim to catch at least 5 animals. But they underestimated the richness of Fish Lake. Before dark, the father and son actually catch 11 beavers. Based on past experience, he knows it's time to stop. While more beavers are better, some must be left to reproduce. Being too greedy could disrupt the ecological balance here. After setting the last trap, the father and son hurry back home. Charlie will share the large amount of beaver meat with his friends and also honor the town's elders. News spreads quickly in the town. Agwo will soon find out that Charlie and his son have returned to the trapping line. In Alaska, trap disputes are a serious matter. Indeed, they can be life-threatening. When they meet again, it might lead to violent conflict. Do you think Charlie is right in what he does? To eliminate a dangerous grizzly bear, a hunter risks his life by entering the bear's den. If attacked, survival is nearly impossible. Hunter Charlie and his son Bob travel 40 kilometers to Grant Creek. This winter is particularly tough. Warmer weather has halved the trapping season. To support his family, Charlie will take any job that pays. Miner Neil calls for help from Charlie, claiming he has encountered a very dangerous animal. Upon arrival, they realize only a huge grizzly bear could cause such destruction. When the temperature is unstable, some hungry bears wake up early and venture into human areas for food. Once successful, they will appear more frequently. After investigating the scene, it is roughly determined that the grizzly bear is about 3 meters long and weighs between 400 to 500 kilograms. Locals know how dangerous these creatures can be. They can easily kill a person. Since the camp was attacked, Neil carries a gun, even to the bathroom, fearing for his life. To address the bear problem, he initiates a trade only seen in the Yukon region. Neil promises Charlie, "Just drive away this bear. The trapping line along the Lancaster River will belong to Charlie." Hunting grizzly bears is very frightening, but to provide for his family, Charlie decides to get this line at all costs. According to clues provided by Neil, the bear's den is behind that mountain. Charlie plans to raid its den directly. This would solve the problem once and for all, but the cost is very high. If an accident happens, the father and son might lose their lives. Neil spent several hours bringing them to the foot of the mountain. The rest is up to Charlie and Bob. After entering the forest, they must be very careful and cautious. They must observe their surroundings at all times. If they confront the bear, they must eliminate it. If the bear senses hunters tracking it, it will fight back to the death. After searching for a long time, the hunters found nothing. By evening, they finally discovered a suspicious bear den. The den is very large and very deep. It also has turns inside. It likely houses the big grizzly they are tracking. Young Bob then makes a bold decision. He wants to enter the bear den with a pistol. This shocks Charlie into a cold sweat. As a father, he does not want his son to take such a risk. But on second thought, to let his son grow up, he must let him go. Eventually, Bob enters the bear den. His father waits outside, prepared for anything. It's unclear whether to feel relieved or regretful. There was no bear in the den. Warmer weather seems to have disrupted everything here. The hibernating bears had to leave their dens early. By now, it is getting dark. Their task had to be terminated there. Father and son return to Neil's camp. They tell him everything that happened. When Neil hears that Bob entered the bear den, risking his life to catch the bear, he is deeply moved. Charlie promises they will keep trying until they catch the grizzly. Here, a promise is the most valuable thing. Neil completely trusts Charlie's promise. Although the task was not completed, he still gives the trapping line to the brave father and son. Compared to the deceit in the city, such a trade seems incredible. This must be what they call a spit in a hole. The road to Tanana is about to be built. Old hunter Stan, to continue his wilderness life, is planning to move away from the town. Old hunter Stan caught a marten. It is rare because it is still alive. In the trapping season, catching animals is an important source of income for the people of Tanana. It is also a unique way of life for them. This season, fur prices are gradually decreasing. Catching this prey, he can only earn $60. This year's unusual weather has caused hunters to be unable to go hunting at the start of the trapping season. They wasted a lot of time. When the temperature drops, 64-year-old hunter Stan can finally go out to check his traps. During winter, days are very short, so much of their work is done at night. Due to climate and the gradual depletion of natural resources, they catch fewer and fewer animals. To increase their income, they must target larger animals, like wolves, wolverines, and silver foxes. Their furs can sell for several $100s, or even more. But trapping them is much harder than smaller prey. Success depends entirely on luck. Stan's dogs can pull sleds. When there's prey in a trap, they alert Stan by barking. After working all night, he only caught one marten. If he relied solely on this for income, his family would starve. A few days later, he returned to the trap line alone. It was another all-night task. Only by catching prey can he make money to support his wife and children. This year's trapping has been very difficult. After walking around the entire line, he saw not a single hair. Ahead was the last trap of the day. If there was no prey, the overnight effort would be wasted again. Seeing his dogs unusually restless, Stan knew something was caught. Indeed, The trap held a live prey, a fox. Its fur was nice, good for a scarf or a hat, but it wouldn't sell for much money, as it wasn't a silver fox. With disappointment, Stan headed home. Sometimes, I wonder how they endure such a harsh wilderness life. Meanwhile, young hunter Joey is training his hunting dogs. As a high-end hunter, going hunting with a well-trained dog often doubles the effectiveness and yields unimaginable results. Recently, his aunt's dog had puppies. Among them, Joey picked one that stood out. He named it Ace. If this puppy can pass a series of tests, it will become Joey's hunting partner. Dogs have keen senses of smell, hearing, and sight. They can detect more hunting targets than hunters and create favorable shooting opportunities. Moreover, they can help retrieve prey and haul cargo. In special situations, they even risk their lives to protect their owner. In the harsh conditions of Alaska, keeping a dog is a big commitment. Survival is tough for hunters themselves. Feeding another mouth only adds to the difficulty. So, before deciding to adopt Ace, it must pass a series of tests to ensure it is of value. The first test is a sound test. Hunters cannot avoid using guns and the noise they make. The sound of gunfire scares most animals away. However, hunting dogs should not be afraid of this noise. When Joey fired the first bullet, Ace was terrified. He tucked his tail and wanted to flee. This reaction was not ideal, but it was expected. Indeed, not just hunting dogs, even humans would be scared the first time they hear gunfire. To ensure accurate test results, Joey fired 3 more shots. This time, the dog ran away in fright. It seems he did not trust Joey completely. The next test was Ace's sense of smell. This is crucial for a hunting dog. If he fails this test too, it means they are not meant to be together. Joey attached a glove to a stick and dragged it across the ground, finally burying it in the snow. He intentionally returned by another path to increase the difficulty of the search. Back at the starting point, the hunting dog began its search. It was indeed confused, following the path Joey returned on. It sniffed all the way to the end of the road with no discovery. But soon, it picked up the scent again and ran to another path. Eventually, it successfully found the target. For a young pup, this was quite an achievement. In the town of Tanana, no one keeps pet dogs. The dogs that stay here almost all have their own duties. Hunting dog Ace now faces a final test. Joey will mix him with Stan's snowmobile team to see if he is willing to help carry goods. If he passes this test, after a successful hunt, he could help transport some meat, lightening Joey's load. During the snowmobile process, Ace showed a strong will to survive. He did his utmost, keeping pace with professional sled dogs, as if he knew what fate awaited him if he failed the test. Aside from being scared of gunfire, Ace was perfect in all other aspects. So, Joey decided to officially include him in his team. As for his fear of gunfire, with training, Joey believes Ace can overcome it. While Joey was training his hunting dog, Charlie and his son were up in the mountains, confronting a huge grizzly bear. Despite the icy and snowy conditions, it was actually springtime. This is Tanana, Alaska. With the arrival of spring, the worst trapping season in history is about to end. Hunters are seizing the last chance to obtain food and fur to sustain themselves. Young hunter Joey, with the help of his father Stan, is patrolling his trapping route. This should be their last check of the traps before the end of the trapping season. Tomorrow, Joey will take all the fur he caught during the winter to Fairbanks to exchange them for cash. This year, few small animals were caught. He could only hope to catch some larger game. He used the precious moose head as bait. Now, he hasn't caught any game. He wants to dig up the moose head and save it for next time, but he can't find it anywhere. Just then, Stan noticed something unusual. There was a snow hole on the ground. Inside, there were remains of the moose head. It seems that some creature ate the bait. Now, not only did he not catch any game, but he also lost a moose head. This is really outrageous. The noose trap set near the bait had been triggered. From the marks and footprints left behind, it was definitely a wolverine. Wolverine fur is very valuable. but they are very cunning and hard to catch. Joey wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. He moved the traps to the wolverine's path. He hoped to catch it today. If so, his income this year could be higher. This is also his last chance this season. In the evening, Joey came back here alone to check the traps. Wolverines are very dangerous animals. According to the local elders, they can sometimes take down a bear. There were fresh footprints on the ground. The wolverine had definitely come back. Joey became nervous. Unfortunately, although the trap was triggered, it didn't catch any game. This made Joey very upset. Just then, he heard unusual noises in the bushes around him. Yes, the wolverine hadn't run far. In a flash, when Joey saw the wolverine, he quickly pulled out his treasured gun and fired 3 bullets at it. It's true that man's plans can't match fate's. Unexpectedly, he ended up getting a wolverine in this way. For the whole trapping season, he finally caught a decent game. This was the largest wolverine Joey had ever seen. It would definitely sell for a lot of money. Early the next morning, he started processing the game, because later, he would go to Fairbanks for the annual fur trade. Wolverine fur is very rare. They are even harder to catch than gray wolves. At this moment, Joey was very conflicted. The town was holding a potlatch for the deceased hunter George. Close people donate precious furs and items at the banquet to honor and respect the deceased. If Joey could donate this wolverine fur at the potlatch, it would be very meaningful for him. What made him conflicted was, this trapping season was very tough. He hardly made any money, except for this fur, which could sell for more. After a fierce mental struggle, he finally decided to take the fur to Fairbanks to see how much it was worth. He would decide what to do at that time. He went to a fur shop, took out all his belongings, including fox fur, martens, and that wolverine. Ultimately, red fox $50 each, cross fox $90, martens $60. These prices are much lower than Joey's expectations. Even if all are added together, let alone making a profit, they don't even cover regular expenses. However, due to its large size and very well-processed fur, the buyer offered $400 for the wolverine. This was a huge temptation for Joey, who was already spending more than he was earning. But after much thought, he decided to take the wolverine fur home and then donate it. He values these traditions far more than money. Even the fur buyer couldn't help but respect the young man's actions. Would you give away such valuable fur for free to someone else? While Joey was selling furs, his father, Stan, was trapping beavers with hunter Charlie. It was mid-March in Alaska, and the annual trapping season was nearing its end. Town leader Charlie was experiencing the worst trapping season of his life. Raised in local traditional culture from a young age, he inherited this ancient lifestyle. Over the years, he has been hunting, trapping, and fishing, making him one of the top hunters in Tanana. But even the most skilled hunter cannot fight against the great nature. Unusually high temperatures in the Yukon region made it impossible to travel by snowmobile. The weather was not cold enough, resulting in poor fur quality, which could not be sold at high prices. Now the temperature has returned to normal, but the trapping season is almost over. So Charlie is using this limited time to collect as many furs as possible. Today he returned to the old route, which is laid with traps on Agun's territory. He spent 10 years learning the distribution and precise locations of animals. A place where he could make money with his eyes closed, he certainly did not want to give it back to anyone else. Plus, Agun broke his promise not to maintain the route. To prevent this place from falling into someone else's hands, Charlie finally decided to take back the route. At this time, Agun had just completed the dog sledding race. He finally had time to manage his own route. But seeing the newly set traps, he immediately guessed it was Charlie's doing. Disputing traps is a very serious matter. It is equivalent to entering someone's house and stealing food from the table. No one can tolerate such actions. The consequences would be severe. At this time, Charlie was working at the water plant. He planned to finish his current work and then quickly go to check the traps on the route. After returning from the route, Agun immediately ran to the water plant, demanding a reasonable explanation from Charlie. In such disputes, one must not lose momentum. Both men had their reasons, and neither would back down. In the end, they parted on bad terms. But the struggle was far from over. Seeing the situation becoming increasingly difficult to resolve, Courtney, the lady of the dog ranch, approached Charlie. She wanted to mediate and asked Charlie to withdraw from the route. She appealed to his emotions and reasoned with him, explaining that Agun had temporarily neglected the trapping route due to his efforts in a major race. Charlie knew Courtney wouldn't get involved lightly. He trusted her words. If what she said was true, he would reconsider his dispute over the route with Agun. After careful thought, Charlie arranged a meeting with Agun on the disputed route. He decided to return the territory to Agun. Years ago, Charlie had received this route with a promise that it would not be taken away. If Agun had not neglected the route, Charlie would not have acted irrationally. The two were from the same family, and discussing the issue could resolve any resentment. They were of the same root, so why the urgency to quarrel? They could deal amicably with strangers, let alone with each other. But before Agun was ready to take over, Charlie planned to trap a few more beavers. Afterwards, they would jointly protect the route. "I'm a bit worried you brought me to this remote place to harm me," Joey, the town's most skilled young hunter, joked as trapping season was about to end. Meanwhile, since the small town of Tanana decided to build a road, old hunter Stan planned to move to a deserted area. While road construction was generally positive, reducing transportation costs and attracting tourists, it was not welcomed by everyone. More people meant fewer wildlife, a critical blow for hunters reliant on the land. Stan had lived alone for 71 years in a small cabin 60 kilometers north of Tanana on the Tosi River, hunting, fishing, and raising dogs. Now, to maintain his lifestyle, he considered moving back there. After a trek, he and his wife reached the dangerous Tosi River. Last year, he nearly died there and was still haunted by the memory. The cabin was across the river, but this year's crossing seemed even more perilous. If they couldn't cross, his plan to escape Tanana would be forced to end. To ensure their safety, they chose an alternate route, barely traveled and littered with fallen trees. They had to clear their way as they went, a challenging task for anyone, let alone a 64-year-old. After finding a safe crossing and spending over 4 hours, Stan and his wife finally reached their cabin. Now, they needed to assess whether it was still viable for long-term living. Repairs might be costly, but it was worthwhile for them. Absolutely worth it. This is a secluded place. Years ago, Stan bought it. He built the cabin by hand. Back then, he only had a handsaw. You can imagine the difficulty of construction. Drinking water is the biggest issue the cabin faces now. The couple came here to retire. They don't want to fetch water from the river later. There is a hand pump in the house, locally called a pressure pump. People over 35 should be familiar with it. They rely on it to get drinking water in the house. It's a device that draws groundwater by pressure. However, it has been broken for 5 years. Now Stan wants to fix it, but it won't be easy. After inspection, he found the reason for the problem. The seal on the piston is worn out, unable to generate pressure. Definitely, the water won't come up. You can't buy parts here. You can only use your imagination to make one. He has some leftover moose skin. Cut it to the size of the old part, then replace it. This could fix the pump. Now start pumping. To generate enough pressure, occasionally add some water. But after pumping for a long time, it still doesn't work. Now, one can only suspect that the water level in the well has dropped or the pipe is damaged. So Stan goes into the basement to find out the reason. The house is old, and the damp basement accelerates the rotting of the wood. This nearly injured Stan. Finally, he found the fault. The pipe is damaged. They have no spare parts, only other ideas. Fortunately, they have some waterproof tape. This finally fixed the pipe. The water was finally pumped up. The water quality is very clear. It's completely drinkable. Besides the water pump, the cabin needs many other repairs. But living in such a place, there are too many things to do normally. To survive, they need to hunt, set traps, and there's hardly any time for these things. Luckily, the cabin is currently habitable. But to make this place perfect, it might take another 2 years. By then, Stan might live here forever. As Stan plans to move, hunters Charlie and Agun are having a conflict over the ownership of a route. Tanana's two top hunters are working together to trap beavers. This winter is particularly hard for hunters. Higher temperatures in Alaska than usual make it difficult for them to catch prey. Now they haven't made money, and food supplies are starting to dwindle. To survive, they have to work harder. Currently, only 2 days are left in the trapping season. The final result seems grim. Charlie and Stan are in the same situation. If it weren't for catching a few beavers on Agun's territory earlier, they probably would have no food now. The last 2 days of the trapping season are here. He must give it his all. Charlie plans to catch a few beavers, but going alone might not yield much progress. So, he thinks of partnering with trapping Master Stan. By doing so, they could set more traps. This might turn the situation around. Stan's trapping skills are mostly self-taught. Charlie, on the other hand, was taught by several mentors. By working together, they can share experiences. They agree to split the catch 50-50. In this way, they can earn money and get some beaver meat. Ending the dismal trapping season this way seems ideal. The cooperation between two top hunters was happily agreed upon. Now, they must use every second of these 2 days. They aim to set many traps. After preparing, they set off towards the fishing lake. This is their last chance of the season. It's do or die. Their target is to catch at least 6 beavers. To reach this goal, they need to dig at least 12 ice holes. This is a big challenge for their physical strength. In trapping beavers, Charlie is definitely an expert. He knows exactly what bait beavers prefer. For instance, dried birch branches are their favorite. Their trap-setting methods differ. Stan used to set snare traps together. Charlie, however, spreads them out. Spreading the traps allows for fine-tuning each snare without affecting the others. Clearly, Charlie's method is more reasonable. This shows the difference between formal education and self-taught expertise.